All right. Okay. Some technical difficulties there, but we're all set. Let me just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna do. We're gonna make one quick change. And then we'll be right back. All right. Where was the games? All right. All right. So we should be all set now. Is anybody's there? Can you hear me? All right, good. We're all set. All right. So, well, what I was getting at, we can just play a multiplayer game here. So basically, what I was getting at is the resource system in this game. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about. Oh, all right. I'll turn the sound down. I can do that. All right. All right. So I'm just going to talk a little bit, and we'll see if that's good. We'll see if this music is better. All right. So basically, great. Awesome. So what I was getting at is the resource system in this game. All right, so I'm just gonna pull up a deck here. Just make a new one. Let's reset this. All right, so basically in this game, every card either costs 1 gold or it's free. And what's really nice about Epic is that you just get all the cards for free. So there's no, it's not like you're buying booster packs or you need to unlock the cards by playing. It's free to play and you just get everything. So if you see a deck that you really like and you want to play it, then you can do that super easily. And the resource system, like I was saying, free cards, you can play as many free cards as you want in a turn. And the 1-cost cards, you get 1 gold on your turn and 1 gold on your opponent's turn. So right now it's available on iOS and Android, and we'll be releasing to Steam later this week. So basically, if you can find it in either app store. The accounts are all connected, so if you play on one of the 3, then you can play on any of the others. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna play a game of draft, so I can talk us through. And so let's do this. Well, yeah. All right. So basically, in Dark Draft, what's very neat about it is that it's a heads-up draft style. So basically, you are playing against someone, and you're drafting with them, and you are the cards that you pick or they pick are the ones that are going to be in your deck against each other. Because there's no resource cards like cards that give you mana for your turns, you can play cards of any color. But there's certain cards will have synergies, so you'll play a card and it'll say something like, oh, I have 2 Sage cards in my hand, so I get to also do this bonus effect. And if you draft that, then you want to draft more Sage cards. Here, I can also check my queue over here. Yeah, but basically the how Dark Draft works is you draft a deck of 30 cards and you play every card that you pick. So it's not like you are playing, you don't get to cut any of the cards that you pick at the end. And you see a 5-card pack and you pick one and then you swap packs with your opponent, and they pick, and you each pick 2 from the pack that you get. So what we're gonna do is do that 10 times, and then the cards that you pick, that goes into your deck, and you just play 1 game with each other, and that's the match. That's right. We can, okay, great. All right, so basically what's gonna happen is I'm just gonna talk about how I choose which card I want. So a card like this, right, it has a lot of stats. So it attacks for 18 damage, which is a lot. But when you play it, it can easily, it spends your whole gold for the turn. So you play it and then you end your turn, and your opponent can just spend their gold to remove it. So this is a card that I wouldn't want highly in my deck. Generally, I like cards that they can do something right away, or they fill a specific purpose in my deck. So maybe if I had very few champions, I might take this. So I'm going to take this Thought Plucker right here because I can play it on my opponent's turn, and it has a tribute ability, which I like a lot. And so I can see I just passed 4 cards to my opponent. And basically what that means is they're going to pick 2 of these cards, and I'm going to pick 2 of these cards that I see. And those are going to be the cards that go. The other 2 that we don't pick are just going to get burned. And I'm not going to know what cards he burned. So that's why it's called Dark Draft, because you're in the dark. So I value free cards a lot. I'm actually kind of running low on time here. So I'm going to take both of those free cards. And basically the reason that I'm taking both of these is if you play something like this and then you can attack your opponent, then you kind of put pressure on them to spend their gold first. So in Epic, there's a lot of value in getting your opponent to spend their gold first. So again, I'm going to take this Fire Spirit over here, and the reason is I like the tribute effect, and we're not really in any color, so these loyalty cards, like this card that I just passed, has a ability that requires you to have 2 Sage cards in your hand to use. So it's a card that would pull you into a color. Dragon, it's asynchronous or real time, so it has both modes. So here, cards that I'm just going to take both of these events, and I'm going to explain my pick here. So I took this Go Wild because it has Recycle. So Recycle means that you can banish 2 cards in your discard pile to draw a card when you play it. So this is a free card that also lets you use your discard pile to draw another card. I like having some of those, but if you have a lot, then it might not be good to pick up more. So I'm also going to pick up this other 0 card with the Recycle because I like 0 cost cards with Recycle. It's a pretty safe choice in general, but if you start getting a lot of them, then you might do something differently. So, all right. Basically, right now, this card has loyalty 2, so it's a card that we would want 2 other yellow cards. We don't really have any yellow cards in our deck, so we're not going to take that. And then between turn and standalone, I like standalone because it draws 2. So even if it doesn't do anything else in my hand, I can just take the standalone. So today, also while how do the different symbols play out? So basically there's 4 colors, right? Wild, evil, sage, and good. So wild champions are big and they deal damage directly to the opponent. Sage cards, basically, they're like tricks. So you can think of them as they usually have the most card draw, and they also manipulate the board or the hand more often than the other colors. So you won't ever make your opponent discard cards or make yourself discard cards without having a blue effect. So here we're going to take both of these evil cards, and the reason for that is the we're getting a lot of, we have a critical mass of evil cards now. So any loyalty 2s that we get in evil are a good pick for us at this point. And this card is like a break all, so you can use it to reset the board if things get out of hand. All right, we got to pick 2 from this other pack. Or sorry, 1. So let's see. We're gonna take cards that give breakthrough. Breakthrough means that if your opponent plays a champion to block, or they have a blocked champion, then breakthrough, the rest of the damage goes to the opposing player. So you don't need different mana colors. You don't need different mana sources. Basically, the mana sources, you get one gold every turn, and then your 0-cost cards are just completely free to play. So it'll make more sense in a second when we actually play our game. I have a lot of 0s, so I actually might not. All right, I'll just take these 0s. I might actually want to start picking some 1-cost cards at this point, which is good for this pack. So Silver Dragon banishes 3 tokens, so it's actually pretty reasonable to go with our Zombie Apocalypse. We might be able to get some synergy there. Alternatively, we could just take this card, which gives us good card draw. Like, you can draw 2 cards with it, and then later you can recall it to draw a card again. I think that we're going to end up going with Silver Dragon because we don't have a lot of champions. So I want to get more champions so that we're not just stuck with a handful of events on our turn. So here, Wild, we don't really have enough for Loyalty 2, so I can't take that Draka or the Hunting Raptors really. It would be kind of greedy. So I'm just going to end up taking both these other 2 zeros, which are the removal. They get rid of a champion, and then they also recycle. So at this point, I don't really want any more recycles because I have a lot of recycles. I have Go Wild, and Wolfspite and Spike Trap, and Arcane Research. So if I get too many more of them, they're just going to get stuck in my hand. All right, so I'm going to take this Apocalypse probably. It's another break all effect. I like having effects that can remove everything from the board. So here our heavy evil investment has paid off. Our deck's probably about half evil. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 19? Yeah, so that's almost a third, a little more than a third. So we're gonna take this card, and we're also gonna take this other evil card. We don't really have enough champions for Misguided Herald to be good. So if you look at burned cards here, this card, when you play it, you basically get to play another champion off the top 5. But I don't think that if we played that, we're not going to be able to actually activate the ability. So we're not going to worry about that. We have another Loyalty 2 here. This one's really good. I also really like Brave Squire. I'm actually going to take the Brave Squire because I don't think that my opponent is taking red highly enough for them to play this card. So even though I think the Medusa would be better in our deck, I don't want to take the Medusa and then have to deal with the Brave Squire. So I'm just gonna take the Brave Squire. And then it's a combat trick basically. So I'm gonna take these 2 cards right here. This one's also reasonable. It's kind of a punisher, so it's the kind of thing where you want to provoke your opponent before you play it. And I'll explain how Blitz Champions should be used as we get into the game, but basically if your opponent, there's no combat step. There's no like one, all right, all of my attacks happen right now. In Epic, you can attack or you can play a card in any order. So you can play a champion and then attack with it right after playing it if it has Blitz, even if you've already attacked that turn. So I usually use Blitz Champions to, when my opponent spends their gold first, then their shields are down, right? I can play a Blitz Champion and get in. So that's how I see Blitz Champions working out. So again, I'm gonna take this Loyalty 2 card right here because it's evil. We have a lot of evil cards, so we're gonna hit all of our Loyalty 2s. And then we probably want another champion because we don't have many of those right now. So we're gonna take the Master Zoe. And this card has Ambush, so we can play, most champions you can only play on your turn. This one we can play on the opponent's turn, and it's one of our only 2 Ambush champions. So we wouldn't mind picking up another one. Alright, so here, I think it's probably Triceratops. We have some good on-turn champions, so I'm going to take the options. So I'm going to take the Triceratops there. I don't know what just happened there. All right, and then let's see. So this is our last pick. So we're going to pick 2 from here. How are we doing on removal? So as far as 1-cost cards go that kill things, we actually ended up taking a lot of Wraths. We don't have very much single target removal, so I'm going to take this Inner Demon. And then I'm also going to take probably Rax's Enforcer to deal with tokens so that we don't just have to Wrath if that happens. Alright, so it's the enemies going first. So that means we have 1 gold on their turn. And when you mulligan, which is what I'm doing right now, we're going to put however many cards we mulligan go on the bottom of the deck, and then we lose that much health and draw that many cards. So if we mulligan 3 cards, then we draw 3 and we lose 3 health, and you get to mulligan once. So this Fire Spirit's a fine on-turn play. It's a champion that has a big tribute, so it's a good way to spend our gold. But we have way too many zeros. So what I'm going to do is probably keep the Brave Squire, and then mulligan these other 2 because we actually really need to find an off-turn play. So I might mulligan the Fire Spirit as well because we don't have a way to spend our gold on our opponent's turn, which is very important. Alright, so now we can at least spend, if we don't have anything else to do, then we can spend a gold to draw 2 cards instead of using the 0-cost card for its normal effect. So Rob's going to be going first. When in Epic, the second player mulligans first, so we just mulliganed, and now it'll be Rob's turn to mulligan. And while, it looks like they're going to play Greathorn Lizard. So when you play a champion, it can't attack right away unless it has Blitz, which this one does. The tribute happens right when it comes into play. So in this case, it got played, and it's a dinosaur. It gives dinosaurs +3 offense and +3 defense this turn. So it's pretty big. Unfortunately, we don't have a good trick to stop it. So let's see, 2 + 6 is, so +2 is 10, so we don't really have a good way of fighting it. I am probably just going to have to draw 2 cards and take it, which is a lot of damage to just take. So 6, 4, we could, yeah, it's not really worth it. Alright, so we're just going to pass here, unfortunately, and take the 10 damage. Alright, and we both spent our gold, so I spent the gold to draw 2 cards. So the priority system in this game, both players, on your turn, you have priority until you attack or pass your turn. And basically you just, whenever you have priority, your opponent can't do something before you do. So you play something, it just happens. Alright, so I'm going to start my turn. Rob passed at the end of his turn. We could play a 0-cost card here, and then it would still be Rob's turn if Rob wanted to do something else with their turn. So I'm going to start the turn. Alright, so here, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with that at some point, but now it's smaller because it gets only the boost for the 1 turn. So this is the Loyalty 2 card, and we have 2 other evil cards in our hand right now. So I want to play this while we still have the Loyalty to go with it. So I'm going to play this card. We get to the tribute right away, which is drawing a card, and then we can reveal 2 to give it Blitz, so it can attack right away. Draw a card, and then I'm going to reveal 2. Now, I want to hold on, I want to keep my removal a secret so that he doesn't try and play around it. We could also keep this a secret because it deals 3 damage to all of his champions, but honestly, I think since we have another deal 2, we might end up being able to use it to break something that has 5 or 4 with both of these together. I'm going to show those 2. Now this could attack or use its ability right away. I'm actually going to pass. So I spent my gold for the turn. So if Rob spends his gold for the turn, then it'll back up into my turn. So in this case, Rob is playing the Vanishing to draw 2 cards. Alright, and Muse. So it's still my turn, even though I passed my turn. So I can attack. This is a big part of Epic, is basically, when do you spend your gold? Is it worth spending my gold right now? Let's see, so I have 1 card in my discard pile. So I'm probably going to play this Wolf's Bite to deal 2 damage to that. So we're going to deal damage first. And then Muse, at the start of your turn, you draw a card, so I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to deal 2 damage to it with Wolf's Bite. And we can't recycle because we only have 1 card in your discard pile. So I'm going to skip the recycle effect. And I could play one of these other zeros, but it doesn't really make sense to, so we're just going to pass. And Rob's probably going to start his turn, because he has another 0 cost card. Alright. So we're in pretty good shape right now. Basically, what's going to happen probably is Rob's going to attack first, right? And then we are going to play this Brave Squire right here to give +5 attack to a champion and Unbreakable this turn on our Wolf token. It also makes a human. So combined, these have 8 offense. So we're going to see if our opponent wants to do anything. If they don't, we're going to block with both, which means we're still going to take some damage from the breakthrough. So it's going to do the rest of the damage to us, which is, oh, they're going to erase the Bouncer champion. Alright, that is not good, because we're going to be taking a lot here. So I think what we're going to end up doing, they spent their gold first. I think it just makes sense for us to break this so that we don't take any damage. So we're going to play the Inner Demon here and break target champion. The player whose turn it is put the demon token into play. So he's going to get a demon token, but we're not going to take any damage. It's kind of debatable whether this is the best play, but I think that given that we don't have a good way of removing it in the next 2 turns, it makes sense for us to use this here. Giving the opponent a demon token is relevant, but we don't really want to take the damage. So we're going to start our turn. Now we're going to attack with the Succubus first. So this has Airborne, which means that it can only be blocked by Airborne champions. Yeah, so gold doesn't stack up. So basically, you can play your biggest card right from the beginning. Alright, so it looks like Rob's playing Angelic Protector, which gives a champion Unbreakable and Untargetable this turn. So Rob's targeting itself. So basically, it can't die this turn. So we're going to pass to blockers, and Rob's going to block with that Angelic Protector. And then we're going to buff up our champion with Go Wild so that it survives by giving it +4 on each. So they're just going to bump off of each other because they're both the same size. So by recycling, you can put 2 cards in your discard pile on the bottom of your deck. And then if you do, then you get to draw a card. So unfortunately, we didn't get to recycle with the Wolf's Bite, which is what I was talking about earlier, because we had it in our opening hand. So here, these 2 are going to hit each other, but the 5 doesn't kill our Succubus, and the Angelic Protector is unbreakable this turn because it's tribute. Alright, so still our turn. So I think what we're going to do, the Gudgeon is pretty reasonable to draw 2 cards, but because the opponent already has a token in play, I'm going to draw a card and banish up to 3 tokens and just get the value out of it right now. And then we can even get in for 1. I think that's pretty reasonable here. It's kind of greedy, but we are a little bit behind right now. We have the same number of cards in hand, so I'm just going to push for damage right now. I could play this Little Devil for 0, but I'm choosing not to because I don't want to overcommit. We already have more things in play than our opponent. I wouldn't be surprised right now if he actually cleared the board with some kind of effect. Yeah, so basically your 1-cost cards are very, very strong, but your 0-cost cards are kind of middling, more situational, but they can be really annoying to deal with, and you don't usually want to deal with them with a 1-cost card if you can. So I'm going to discard this Rax's Enforcer because it deals 3 damage to each opposing champion. We don't have any good targets for it right now. And so when you played this Night of Shadows, the tribute happened, and this just seems like the least useful card in your hand. So looks like Rob just passed without attacking, which makes sense because of our big champion that we could block with. So we don't have a play, so we're actually going to dig. And this card lets you banish any number of cards in your discard pile, and then you get to dig that many. We have a recycle, so we could leave some cards in our discard pile for it. I mean, I think, where's the chance that we don't get a play? It's pretty low if we just do 3. So I think what we do is that we just choose, we leave up to, we have a couple of reanimation effects in our deck, so let's just leave like those two, and then we'll banish the rest. Alright, so that's good. So we got to play here. We're going to grab the Thought Plucker, and the other two get banished. So it's basically like a virtual card advantage type of tool. We're going to play a Thought Plucker, which tribute, you draw a card and the opponent discards a card, and it also does that whenever it hits them. So this is a threat. The opponent needs to deal with this basically right now. I mean, or when we attack with it. So this is the type of card that you want a Punisher for, because if you play it on their turn and they don't have a 0-cost card that can deal with it, then as soon as you attack, if they spend their gold to get rid of it because they don't want to discard a card, that's when you play the Blitz champion, and then you get in there with the Blitz. Alright, looks like Rob's deciding which card to discard. Can be a tough decision. Alright, they discarded Ancient Chant. Ancient Chant does something in your discard pile, so it makes sense they would discard it. You can spend your gold to return this card to your hand. That's what recall means. So later he can spend his gold to get this card back, and whenever it leaves the discard pile, he draws a card. So that's a great card for him to discard. We're just going to start our turn right now. It's still Rob's turn, so because I played something, Rob could attack with this Angelic Protector or play a 0-cost card. If Rob had a 0-cost champion they wanted to play, they would probably actually just play it after I spent my gold. I think that the way he did it was best. So he used Lash to kill that. And the reason is, let's say I had something like this Brave Squire that could make my champion bigger. I could do that and then attack. And because he doesn't get priority unless I'm attacking or I'm ending my turn, he wouldn't be able to lash my Thought Plucker before my my effect happened. So Succubus right here can banish good champions. So we're going to use that on that yellow champion over there. It goes to the bottom of the deck. And then we're going to attack with our Airborne champion. We want to put some pressure on the opponent. Alright, we get in there. Now I could pass here. I think that's actually pretty reasonable. We have a good off-turn play. I don't want to play something and then get blown out here, so I'm going to pass. We're pretty far ahead right now. We actually have lethal in play. Both of these are airborne, so he has to do something about one of these champions. And if he spends his turn right now drawing 2 or something like that, then we can play something else. But basically, sometimes when you're already ahead, you don't want to just keep spinning. Like if he had a card right now that said, do something to all champions in play, then it would be bad for me if I that's actually a little annoying because he has a lot of small things now. I think what we're going to do is still play this Gudgeon though. We could put the Little Devil to attack, but it doesn't really add to our clock. I mean, if he removes this, I guess we could Little Devil attack, so that way Little Devil, Succubus, Little Devil gets in for lethal. So I think we are going to play Little Devil on attack, just so that we threaten lethal next turn if either one of these gets removed. So this way, right now, if Rob removes one of these champions, then we can still win in the air with the other two. Normally I would not commit this to the board since we already have a lot of stuff in play. So here what's probably going to happen is Knight of Shadows is going to attack first because it has unblockable. But luckily we have a good answer to Knight of Shadows. We have Spike Trap, which deals 5 damage to an attacking champion, which is why I wasn't worried when this Knight of Shadows got played first. So I'm going to play this Spike Trap and Recycle, leaving the better champion to reanimate later. And then we could banish our opponent's discard pile immediately, which isn't a bad idea. Cuts them off for Recycle, but they do get to draw a card. I think that we're just going to, might be a good idea, just in case they have a 0-cost with Recycle in their hand. They do get to draw a card, but I think that it's worth doing immediately, just so that they don't get a chance to react. We're going to gain 1 health for each champion in the discard pile. The reason I'm doing that is if they have like any 0-cost champion with Recycle, and I think I saw 1 or 2 in the draft, then they would probably attack first before playing that 0-cost champion with Recycle. So we are cutting them off of any of these recycles from getting value right now. Alright, so they're going to deal 5 damage to each opposing champion and draw a card, which is a little sad for us. But on the bright side, we still have our gold up. So what's going to happen is they're going to attack, probably with a human token. And then we are going to play standalone, which is each player chooses a champion and break all their champions. So actually, we don't even really need to do that because they're passing. So I would actually rather not play this card and not use my gold here. Even though it does make sense for me to use my gold here, in the sense that my opponent has already spent it. I don't actually gain that much out of removing these. So I'm going to start my turn. And if, because let's say he had a 3 damage 0 cost card in his hand, I would be very sad. So I'm going to attack for 9. It's very unlikely that he won't remove this because there's just so much deal damage effects that, alright, so he's at 1, which means that if we had anything in our hand which dealt damage to him, he would just be dead. But we don't, so we are just going to have to play something else. We could play this Triceratops. We're pretty healthy right now, so I'm not too worried. We could draw for lethal, but I don't think it's worth it. I don't want to play nothing because 8 is a lot of damage for us to take. He could kill us from 8 if he played a 0 cost champion and then he played like another card that dealt damage to us. So I'm just gonna play this Triceratops. It's enough to block one of these 3s, so we take 5 and go to 15. And that's perfectly fine. He's going to play Siren Song to draw 2 cards. Alright, pass back to us. We're just going to pass back to him, so his turn is going to start after that. So at this point, we can look at our deck and see if we have any way to just immediately kill him. So this card right here is the only one in our deck that does damage to a target. So if we had this in our hand, we could just kill him. And looking at this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards banished, and 17 cards in our deck. So there's only 8 left. So our chance, we have a 1 in 8 chance each draw of just drawing lethal. So it looks like Rob's going to play Rabble Rouser, which makes a lot of human tokens. You basically double the amount of human tokens you get. And then it's still Rob's turn. So Rob spent his gold. Once again, I don't think it's worth spending the gold here in the event that Rob had something like, it's actually scarier for us because we already threatened lethal for us to do anything here. So we're going to just start our turn without spending our gold. Like, we're already threatening so much, you might as well just hold on to the extra card in our hand. We could play standalone here, which would be somewhat of a reasonable play, but like, this champion has breakthrough and he can't take any damage. So even if he blocks with what, 4, 5, 6 human tokens, I guess he would. Alright, so you're going to turn all champions into a wolf token. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to try to win here. We're going to play Necromancer Lord and reveal 2 evil cards from our hand to give it Blitz, so it can use its ability right away. We're going to return a champion from our discard pile to play. We're going to get back the Succubus, which can attack right away if we reveal 2 evil cards from our hand. We reveal the same 2 cards, and then we'll attack. And then our opponent could have a 0 cost card that would save them here, but worst case scenario, we can just stand alone on our opponent's turn to not take any damage from these enemies. So right now, we're threatening lethal here. So they have to have a 0 cost card that either returns this to our hand or removes it. So he's going to dig for an answer right now. It looks like they need exactly flame. Yeah, okay, so we got it. Alright, and that's the game. And so that's what a normal game of Dark Draft looked like. So our evil loyalty plan came together pretty well. We got Succubus and Necromancer Lord. Both those cards gave us a lot of value. The Succubus was able to remove one of our opponent's good champions, and I think it dealt 6 damage, and then another 6 damage when we reanimated it. And yeah, looks like someone challenged me. So basically, tonight, it'll be coming to PC, Echo, early later this week. So Friday is when we expect it to be on Friday. So if you have this on iOS or Android, or if you want to install it, you can challenge me to any format and I'll play against you. I have this asynchronous game that I started earlier, so it's possible that the opponent was wondering where I went while I played that game with Rob. But I'm just going to take my turn, and hopefully J Dot here will continue playing. So first pick, first pack. Now this is an untimed game, so luckily I have a lot more leeway with talking about talking about my plays. I can slow it down a little bit. So if anyone has any questions, this is now much better that I don't have a clock. I can take a little bit of a breather. All right. So Loyalty 2 cards in general are very strong. So this card, even though it doesn't seem like it, in Epic, gaining health is actually really strong. It's not gaining a little bit of health is not going to put a lot of pressure on the board, but just the fact that the champions are so big, something like this, which does 12 if it hits you, that's a 3-turn clock all on its own. So sometimes something like this, gaining 10, that's a third of your health. So, and you can go over your starting health. So this would actually be a lot of health to gain. Now I'm not going to take it because I don't want to go into this color early. I want to leave it open. And to answer more on the lines of what someone else asked earlier, what the different colors do, I think that was, I'm not sure who said it in stream, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about the colors for a second. So good lets you heal, but also it has angels, it has airborne champions, it has those human token effects which make 1/1s, but it also likes to give things a lot of extra offense. So it'll give things, like this card gives extra offense, but I think there's one good card that exists that gives extra defense. And almost every good card that you see that buffs something will give it just a really big offense pump. And so they are really good at making really small champions into threats. And they also have group effects, things that buff your whole team. And they care a lot about the fact that they're also good. They also banish. So banish puts a card on the bottom of its owner's deck. And banishing is good because an alternate win condition in this game is that if you have if you draw a card from a deck that's empty, then you actually win the game. You don't lose. So it doesn't happen very often, but banishing is just always better than breaking. I mean, if you banish your own stuff, that's bad, but you never want your opponent's cards in the discard pile as opposed to banished if you can. So I see that Lightning Strike I do like a lot. I think I'm actually going to take Brave Squire. I value Brave Squire very highly because it's 6 damage to an attacking champion if you Brave Squire a human token that it makes, at least behind a body. So it's very likely that you'll get something out of it, and it has a lot of synergies. So you play Brave Squire on a Righteous Champion, you get more health. You play it on a Breakthrough Champion, you can deal damage to them. You play it on something that's evasive, like an Airborne Champion or an Unblockable Champion, and then you can just deal 5 damage to them. I do like Lightning Strike a lot. I think this card is also very good, but I prefer Brave Squire here. Alright, so now we take 2. Let's see, so we got Brave Squire already, and I'm going to take probably, we could just go into good here. This is a good ally ability. So we already have one good card, and then we can just take the Bodyguard. And personally, I prefer Forced Exile of these two. Banishment draws you a card if it's your turn, but draws the opponent a card if it's their turn. And it banishes a champion. Forced Exile draws you 2 cards, or you banish a champion, and the player whose turn it is gets 2 human tokens. So I like the drawback of my opponent getting 2 human tokens more than them drawing a card. And I also really enjoy the versatility of being able to draw 2 cards if, my opponent plays a small champion that just has some kind of good effect right away, like a small champion that draws 2 like the Gudgeon, then I can just play this and draw 2 instead of just having this card sit in my hand. So I'm going to take the Force Exile here. Now I have 3 good cards, so I'm going to just keep taking good cards to get synergy, hopefully, with my Bodyguard. Now here, the Royal Escort is another good synergy card, so when you play it and also whenever you play another good card, you get 3 health, and it gives your whole team untargetable. Now we have a lot of good options here. We could take this board wipe, so it banishes all champions, and if it's the opponent's turn, they get 4 human tokens. So it is very good at stopping your opponent from doing things. But we don't really have any way to deal with those 4 humans right now, so I don't think I want to take that. Heinous Feast banishes the opponent's discard pile, which it's nice to have that effect, but I think people overvalue it. It's not something that I would take over a good card for my deck. I think it is quite good, but to have a way to just get rid of your opponent's things in the discard pile like Bodyguard. I mean, it actually I might not take the Heinous Feast here for a very specific reason. If I take Thought Plucker, my opponent gets this pack. I think they always take Angel of Death and Heinous Feast, which means that my opponent will be on red, and then I'll know that for the future. So I'm going to take the Thought Plucker here because I don't want to confuse them. I want them to take both of these red cards, so that way I know they're going to be in red. So I can kind of hate draft away the red cards. And it looks like they actually didn't take this Rift Summoner here, so maybe they are already in a color. I like Rift Summoner a lot. I like it. Even if you don't have loyalty for it, if you have a bunch of small things, you can just eat something to make 2 demons. And you can play it on your opponent's turn. So it's like a threat that you can play on your opponent's turn. And also it divides the threat into multiple bodies, so you get the demon tokens, which have to be dealt with, and also this thing has to be dealt with. So I like that card. I think this is for more of like a swarm type of theme. It gives all of your champions +2 attack. I don't think that it's very good with what I have right now. I do have some synergy, but I think I would rather not take it at this point. So this is another recycle champion, except that it happens when it dies. And then we have a board clear, but for small stuff. 5 is pretty small in Epic. So it's nice that I think what I'm going to do here is take both of these. I like Draka's Fire, but I'm fine just not having to play around it and letting my opponent take it. I'm going to take that Warrior Golem because I just like 0 cost recycle champions. All right. So we got another pack. Now, the thing is, giving my opponent Medusa would be kind of sad. Giving my opponent Medusa and Zombie Apocalypse would be very sad. So I don't think I can take both. I don't think I can pass both of these up. Flame Strike dealing 8 is a pretty nice card. 8 damage. You'd be surprised how often you can just get people with this because you can hit them. You don't want to be hitting a champion with Flame Strike. Other than that, I think this card requires a lot of support. I don't like the fact that when you play it, you don't get anything right away. It's really hard to remove, surprisingly, because it's unbanishable and has a lot of defense. So it's a very good card against Wild, and good. But I don't think I would take it blind, especially if I think my opponent is in evil with a lot of break effects. So I'm going to take this Zombie Apocalypse because Medusa isn't going to be playable for me, likely. And both these cards are going to be very good for my opponent. Alright, and then I'm going to take this Brand, which has loyalty 2 for good. And then probably also going to take this, probably the Vanishing. The Winged Death is actually underrated, I think. I'm getting a lot of challenges. It's going to be great. Alright, Winged Death is a great card just to punish your opponent, because you get to they break a champion right when you play it, and then also when it deals damage to them. And of course, if I'm just going to do the challenges in the order that I receive them, but if you want to play Constructed or Dark Draft, you can challenge me. My username is CJWWG. I will also be willing to play Random 30, but I'm just going to Uh, Start off with these games because I think that Dark Draft and Constructed, there's less information out there about strategy for those, so I think they're more interesting to talk about. Looks like J-Dot's still looking at their cards. And so if I wanted to, I click this arrow and it would just bring me to my next game that's going on right now. I'm going to give J-Dot a little bit of time while and if they don't do anything, then I'll just leave and go to a different game. Yeah, if you like to play a lot of Star Realms and you like to flick between your games, then you have that option with Epic. Personally, I have a hard time. I always have to really immerse myself in the game that's going on, so I like playing. My favorite is actually doing the asynchronous mode, but just doing it each player takes their turn immediately. I think that's the best because then you get both pros. You get the pro of playing right away, and also you don't have to worry about the clock. But I also do tend to take my time. I'm kind of more of a slow player, especially when there's a lot of cards in my hands. So I wouldn't. I understand how some people, their opponent takes a minute to take their turn. They don't like that, and they wouldn't want to play against me. All right. We can look at our hand a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is just go and see what else we have. I think J-Dot may have left and gone and done something else in the meantime. I thought I had it. Maybe that's just... Oh, and I'm just getting notifications for this game that is currently happening. All right, that's fine. In the meantime, we can start a new game. We're going to play... we can make a deck, actually. So I'm going to go through Constructed, and I'm going to make a deck just to show you what that looks like. Now, while I'm here, I want to also go over the settings. So I highly suggest that you go into your game options, and I like to have my animation speed a little on the high side, but that's just because I've played a lot. So I also turn on Attack Separately and Battle Pass. So these are disabled by default because they can be a little confusing if you haven't played other card games digitally, but basically what Battle Pass does is when you attack, you can just Battle Pass, and then your attack does all of the attack for you. You don't need to wait to do the you don't need to attack and then pass, and then they decide not to play any blockers, and then you pass again for damage. You can just click the Battle Pass button. And if they do anything, then of course it goes back to you getting priority. Attack Separately is the same thing as Battle Pass, but for multiple champions. So you can, let's say you have 6 human tokens, you can drag all 6 up, and then you can say Attack Separately, and then you Battle Pass with each human token. So I like having both of these turned on. You don't need them. They're just quality of life. All right, so I'm gonna just start up a new game of probably Dark Draft, and then in the meantime we can make a constructed deck. So I'll build one right now. So does anybody in the chat have a deck or a card that they'd like to, or a color or a theme that they want to see a deck made around? Here we can just reset this one. Let's just make a new one. All right, well, we're just going to start with so when I'm making a deck, the rule for deck construction is that you have to have, for every 0-cost card that you have to have 2 1-cost cards of the same color. So in other words, if you have a 0-cost Sage card, then you need to have 2 1-cost Sage cards. And that's what makes the color pie the color pie. So there's no resources. You can splash cards, but you only get 20 zeros out of your 60-card deck and 40 1-cost cards. So if you want to play, I can choose a card from our previous game. If you want to play, let me see. If you want to play that Little Devil in your deck, that means you need to play some evil cards that cost 1. All right, I want to see big creatures / dragons. So we're going to do that. We're going to make a big creature deck. So Wild has the biggest champions. Sage has the next biggest champions. So what that means is if you want a big champion deck, then we're going to start with wild for sure. And I think what we're going to do is, if you don't know the cards that well, you can just can't spell loyalty. We're going to look up loyalty cards. So these cards are extra powerful if you have other cards of the same color. So they're a good base if you know which color you want to play more of. Now I really like Raging T-Rex. It's a big champion that also draws you 2 cards. So this is like the perfect play on turn 1. You get a huge threat out, and it draws you 2 cards. And it has to attack every turn, which can actually isn't always a downside, because if your opponent has something bigger, then if you attack with it, then they're just going to think, oh, they had to attack with it. So if you have a combat trick in your hands, then or if you build your deck with combat tricks in it, like things that make your offense and defense bigger, then this card gets even better because your opponent doesn't think that you're going to do some kind of weird thing with it. So we're gonna put three of this card in our deck, and I also am a big fan of effects like this Draka that deal damage to the opposing champions when you attack with them or play them, because they can deal with the smaller token decks and also the utility champions. Basically, in this theme of deck that we're going to make, we're going to play champions that have effects when you play them, so that you can you react to your opponent by playing a champion that's relevant to the situation. So for that reason, we're going to start with 3 Drakas here, and we're also going to start with 3 Pyrosaurs. Pyrosaur is kind of the same thing, except that it's smaller, but it does 2 damage when you play it and when it attacks. So it's really good at dealing with 4 health champions like that Dima token. And I think people really underrate this card because it deals damage to the player. So even if they have a card that kills this or this, and you play a Pyrosaur and attack with it, you get to deal 4 damage to them and clear their board before they even react. So Pyrosaur, really underrated. Alright. Strafing Dragon, also great. Basically, it deals 5 damage to your target. So sticking with our theme, we're going to use these champions that have effects when you play them. And we have Scaros here. Is unlike the other cards which reveal 2, you have to reveal some number of cards in your hand that are green, and then that's how much damage you deal to the opponent, each of their champions. So there's a loyalty X card for each color that really incentivizes you to go really heavy into that color. So we'll come back to this. We might decide that we don't want to do that. And I'm also going to put these Hunting Raptors in our deck because it gives us 4 damage basically when we play it. So we play it on their turn, give it Blitz, and then we can deal the 4 damage to them or their champion. And then on our turn we can activate it again. So that's what we want. This is going to be our base, our core. And then we're also going to just go ahead and look at the other wild cards. And I am a big fan of Surprise Attack. If you're playing a deck with a lot of champions, this card draws you a card and then puts a champion from your hand into play. So it lets you play a slow champion you can normally only play in your turn on your opponent's turn. And it kind of doesn't cost a gold because it costs a gold to play, but then you also get the effect of putting a gold cost champion into play. So Surprise Attack is it's great. But you need a lot of champions. So don't put it in your deck if you don't have a lot of champions. Alright, what else we got? So we're going to also play Brachiosaurus. This card gives you a gold when you play it, but only for wild cards. So this card is going to synergize really well with having a big wild deck with lots of wild cards. And right now we have 21 cards. So I think what we're going to do is pick up at least 1 more wild card, and then we'll fill out our zeros in wild. So a big thing to think about is you want an even number of 1-cost cards so that you can get the maximum 0-cost cards. That's my suggestion, and I think that it works pretty well. So we don't have any burn here. I mean, we have Pyrosaur and Hunting Raptors. So we might want to play something that deals damage to the opponent. Like Flame Strike, to deal 8. That's a good finisher. Fires of Rebellion, which deals 7 damage to each opposing player. It's also a pretty good option. I think we're going to go with Flame Strike. And we're just going to assume that we're not going to use the Fires of Rebellion to hit champions. And we're going to let's go up to 3 for now. So we're going to have 24 wild cards that cost a gold. And we're playing all wild champions plus surprise attacks and flame strikes. And then we're going to go ahead and fill out our zeros. So we need 12 wild zeros. So we don't have any champions with breakthrough except for Brachiosaurus. So I'm going to play Rage, which gives a champion breakthrough and +4 offense and +4 defense this turn. This card works really well with Raging T-Rex, ironically. And if your opponent blocks with a small thing, one of these bigger champions, then you can push through with the Rage. We're going to play 3 Rages. All right, and then after that, we have another 6 cards to go. Or sorry, we have another 9 cards to go. So we're going to pick 3, and we're going to put 3 in each. So given that we have Draco, which deals 3 damage to the defending player's champions, Pyrosaur, and then also some other things that deal damage, we're going to play Feeding Frenzy, which breaks a damaged champion. So that way we can attack with one of these big things that does damage to all of our opponent's stuff, and then kill something that's really big that just took a little bit of damage. That's going to be our game plan. And then aside from that, I think we're also going to play... I think that Flashfire is a pretty reasonable card if you're worried about token decks. I think we're not going to do that. We're going to play Fire Shaman, which just gives us... It sticks with our theme of champions that have effects right away. And then also we have 1 more 0 cost to fill out. So I'm going to play Flame Spike here, I think, which deals 2 damage to your target and your cycle. So you can dome your opponent and they lose 2 health, or you can kill something that's small, like a Muse. And I think when people don't know what to play, they like to play Muses and other really small champions. I think people like to get really greedy with those small health champions, so I like having a way to kill a small champion and gain advantage. So we're going to play 3 of those. Alright, so we have some wild cards. Now we could actually play another color as well. We can play all 4 if we want, but usually the loyalty 2 effects are quite nice to have. So we could either go evil and then say, alright, we want to reuse our champions. Good might be kind of hard to swing with wild unless we want to go more on the combat trick side and play champions that when they deal damage to the player, you gain that much health. We could also play Sage, which gives us the option of having other big champions and also some interaction. So I think we're going to play... Yeah, we could play Rain of Fire. Rain of Fire is actually pretty reasonable. I think I want Flame Strike because we don't have any other cards that just deal damage right to our player. So we're going to play the Flame Strike so that this is more of a finisher type of thing. Alright, so let's look at the Sage cards. We want big champions, right? So we're going to play Sea Titan because it's really big. And in my opinion, this is one of the best things to surprise attack out. You play this on your opponent's turn, and then it returns a champion to its owner's hand, and you can then attack with it on your turn. So this is a really good way of... it's untargetable, so basically it's really hard for your opponent to remove. It is a little bit of the... It doesn't work out too well with Rage, but we have plenty of things to use Rage on. So we're going to put some Sea Titans in this deck. And then we're also... Let's see. We're also going to play a... so we want big champions. We're going to play a Misguide Herald. We have a lot of champions in our deck, so this is just going to give us, when you play it, it's going to reveal 5 from the top of your deck, and then you play a champion from among those. So that's going to synergize with basically all of our other big champions. We're going to get the big champion and this smaller thing, which just can harass our opponent or block something big. It's good against other big champions, and it's also good against those decks that just try to remove everything with one card. That also gives them a little bit of advantage because it's an extra body that they have to deal with, or you can just keep hitting them for a small amount. Alright, and then as far as aggressive cards go, so as far as, let's see, cards we have to have Blitz. We have Pyrosaur, Draka, and Strafing Dragon. Those are the Blitz cards that we have that can attack. So we might want one more as just a way to punish our opponent. So I think we're going to play probably the Juggernaut. So this card, if you play it on your turn, then it can attack, and it has breakthrough, so it's hard to block. but it can't die on your turn. So this is another card that it really is difficult to deal with. If you can just play an attack. It can't die on your turn, so they have to return it to your hand or banish it, and they can't block it with a small thing. So I really like having this card in the more aggressive style decks. And then I think from there, it does have a loyalty 2, but even if you don't draw a card, you can just get in for 9 and leave a body on the board. It's just so hard to not take damage from that. Alright, and then we also want a little bit of interaction with our opponent. So we have the deal effects that hit all of our opponent's champions. So we're going to play Wave of Transformation, which turns everything into a 2/2 wolf. And that's going to go well with our theme here of playing these big champions that do things to small champions. And we're also going to play, let's see, so we have 36, so we need 4 more cards that are 1. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to pick up probably, am I doing my math wrong? 36, yeah, 4 more cards that are 1. Alright, so we're going to want probably 1 of, and then 3 cards. And we can do all those in Sage. Let's see. So for events, we have Wave Transformation, Flame Strike, and Surprise Attack. We're gonna skip over those. We're just gonna play. We're not gonna. I was thinking about Lessons Learned as a way to replay our Flame Strikes. We don't have that many events. We have a lot of champions. So instead of that, we're going to play this Thought Plucker, which will encourage our opponent to do something so that we can hit them with a big champion. And then we're also gonna play 1 other card from Sage, which will probably be an Erase, which will give us a little bit of card draw and also remove their champion from play. So basically, they play something, we can erase it, draw 2, and then we can hit them with our big champion. That's basically our plan right now. And so then for zeros, we have 8 to go. So I'm going to play Force Mage Apprentice as another way to deal damage to our opponent because it hits a target. And then we also want, 5 more? So we should play something to interact with the discard pile. I'm going to go ahead and put in probably Amnesia, which banishes their discard pile. You could also play Keeper of Secrets. I think we're going to play Keeper of Secrets. We're just going to make this a very aggressive deck. We're going to play Keeper of Secrets, which when you play Sage card, you get to recycle. It can attack right away, and also we can eat a problematic card from the discard pile. And we're just not going to run Amnesia. So if we go into the long game against a deck that is trying to abuse the discard pile, then we might struggle. And then I'm going to play 2 of these Vanishings, which are really nice in aggressive decks because it's a really good tempo play. You spend a card and they go up a card, but you're hitting them so they die. That's the plan. All right, and we're gonna name this. Dinosaur Beatdown, even though it's also got dragons in it. That's fine though. All right, we're all set. And so if I want to, I can also export this, which just copies it, and then you can also import decks that are copied, so you can share decks really easily. All right, so we're gonna go and try and play with this deck. See, I actually started a Dark Draft, but we just built this constructed deck, so I think we want to play with it. So we're gonna play a 48-hour. Yeah, I mean, I think that we can play a 48-hour just so I have time to explain what my moves are for that. All right, yeah, Big Boys. Big Boys is a good name. We can change it, but we just started it. All right, afterwards we'll change it. All right. So it looks like we're playing against a Smith Tech. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. All right, so the opponent is mulliganing first, and we are starting the game off. So this Juggernaut is a great first turn. We don't have Loyalty 2 to activate it, unfortunately, so I think I'm going to dig a little bit. I'm going to mulligan some cards to try and get that. I think Flame Strike is generally a bad card in your opening hand. You really want to use this on your opponent, and you don't want to do that until they're at 8 health. So we're not going to hold on to this. Rage, we are going to hold on to because I think it's always important to have some kind of draw 2 effect. And then I'm just going to toss the other ones. Fire Shaman's nice, but I don't want to just vomit my hand onto the table and then run out of cards. So I'm going to be mulliganing. this Flame Strike, this Hunting Raptors, and this Fire Shaman, keeping the Juggernaut and the Rage. Oh, right now you don't receive any gold just for playing, but we have there's the arena and the quests that you get every day. So we are going to be implementing some kind of system where you get golds, but at the moment you can play in the arena, or you can do your quest to get gold. Alright, so we're just waiting for a Smith Tech. It's possible that they are just not, they're not on right now, so we are just going to have to play something else. Alright, well, we will, and if you want to challenge someone, what you do is you click on this little challenge button and you type in that player's name, and you can add people to a friends list, or you can just challenge them directly, if that makes sense. Alright, we're going to play against, I guess we'll just play this Dark Draft right here. Against Darwin. Alright, so we're making our first pick. So basically we have 5 cards to pick from. I really like this Muse card because it synergizes with basically it doesn't synergize. When you play this, if your opponent doesn't get rid of it, then you just get to draw a card over and over again. So I think this is a really strong pick, especially early on in the draft, and it gets better if your opponent doesn't get rid of it. It can kind of snowball. So we're going to take that. And then from here, we have, let's take a 0-cost card with Recycle, and this probably an unblockable card. We can just start going into Sage. In general, I just like picking up 0-cost cards if I don't know what to do with my draft. I think in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll queue up another constructed game here. And then if we, here, let me just rename it. If we, oh, looks like we did get on it. Big boys. All right, great. Thank you for the suggestion. Drakzeg, did I pronounce that right? Probably absolutely butchering it. All right, that's fine though. Okay, so the enemy's going first, and that means we're mulliganing first. So this surprise attack is going to let us play a card on their turn. So I'm going to hold on to the surprise attack, and I'm also going to hold on to these 2 green cards, because that way if we want, we can play this and deal 5 damage to something. I'm going to toss the Misguided Herald, because I think if I surprise attack something out, then the Sea Titan is just going to be a blowout against some opening place. Like if we can line up something like surprise attack, Sea Titan, their guy, and then we attack with Sea Titan, they play a small champion, and then we can Draka. That would be really good. But we just drew this Raging T-Rex, which is also really good because it's a huge champion that draws us 2 cards. So I think no matter what our opponent does, we're in absolute great shape here. Probably what's going to happen is we're going to play the surprise attack, and then put a Raging T-Rex into play to draw 2, and then just start attacking them for a ton. Alright, so Master Ram's going to be going first. Master Ram. I wonder if that's a Star Realms reference to Ram card. Alright. And so in general, I think you can splash cards pretty easily, but it hurts the consistency of your ability to get certain effects. Like, I probably wouldn't play this card if I didn't have a lot of Sage, at least a good amount of Sage cards to prepare it frequently. And I probably wouldn't play this card if I didn't think I would ever be able to get the loyalty to, even though it's not our main color. Alright, so it looks like Master Ram just Lightning Stormed us. That is a little interesting. So here I'm actually going to reveal the Flame Spike and the Strafing Dragon because I don't want our opponent to play around Draka, which I think is our best surprise. Oh. Well, we are gonna surprise them many times. They're gonna think, hey, they just played a second Draka? There's no way they have a third Draka. Alright, so right now we're attacking for 12. Alright, they just played Muse. That's fine. I mean, if they want to chump, I mean, I'm just going to Flame Spike that. They're kind of, it feels like they are televising that they don't have a way to deal with that block. So some decks really try to be greedy and they play a lot of, like when my opponent plays Lightning Storm first just to hit me, my assumption is that they're on some kind of hyper burn deck, like it's all burn cards. So they probably don't actually have very many blockers. So here they're probably just gonna, oh, all right, see, look at that, that sounds great. Now what we're going to do is, this is a great time to play a Punisher. So we're gonna play this Blitz card, even though we're not gonna hit any champions on the ground. And we're not gonna reveal our 2 Drakas because we already showed our opponent the Strafing Dragon. And then we're just gonna hit them for 9, and then end the turn. 3 Draka, that's right. Now they know we have 2. They're going to be so scared to play one of their non-existent champions. Alright, they're going to play Kong. This is a really good card if you're a wild deck against other wild decks because it kills your champion, and then also it's really big, so it's annoying to get rid of. But we have Feeding Frenzies in our deck, so that's our hope, is we get one of those Feeding Frenzies to deal with that card. So we're going to play this Strafing Dragon and reveal our 3rd Draka to shoot them for 5. Now what's really nice about Strafing Dragon is that you can play it on your opponent's turn. It can kill small things. You can hit them and make them lose health, but also you can play it on your turn as a Punisher because it has Blitz. Alright, so they're gonna play Force. I guess they're gonna somehow kill the Strafing Dragon. Oh, they're just shooting us for 2. That's fine. Hopefully we. All right, so we don't have a another green card to activate loyalty on the Draka. So that's the main weakness. I did do the split pretty greedily with the oh, interesting. With the Wild and Sage cards. So I guess they're probably gonna shoot our Strafing Dragon here and then block with the Memory Spirit to kill it. Now, unfortunately, this plan is really good against us because we have no tricks in our hand to deal with it. But this is a risky play because if we had something that killed that champion or some kind of other effect that buffed this champion, then they would be out of luck. But we're not going to do that because we can't. So here's what we're going to do. Whenever you play a Sage card, if you have this in play, you get to recycle. So we're just tossing both of these out. We're going to play the Sea Titan, which is going to have us recycle twice. So we're going to recycle 2 of those cards. And then I don't think I want to return the Kong to hand because the Sea Titan can actually chump the Kong. And then I also don't want to return the Force Mage Apprentice to hand, so I'm going to return one of the Keeper of Secrets. So I use the Keeper of Secrets first to banish a card from a discard pile. I'm going to get rid of that Lightning Storm so it can't be recalled later. Basically, if it has a gray box, then you know it does something in the discard pile. We'll get rid of that Lightning Storm, and then I'm going to play this Sea Titan, and we're going to recycle first, just in case we draw something that gives us more information about what we want to... Alright, we're going to recycle first. And we have the Feeding Frenzy, so that's pretty nice. So we're actually going to go in here for 2. Basically, if they block, then we kill it with Feeding Frenzy. If they don't block, then they take 2. Way better than banishing a card in their discard pile. What's really nice about these Keeper of Secrets in an aggressive deck is that they're kind of also just makeshift attackers. They can get in for 2, they can chump. Looks like they're not blocking, so we're just going to keep doing that. That's fine. We can just keep, I can just do this all day. So once they take this too, then Sea Titan will be lethal. So they'll need to stop this Sea Titan attack for the rest of the game. They probably don't have any cards that gain them health because they look like they're running Sage and Wild, but they're running. It doesn't look like they're running any loyalty cards, so maybe they splash some healing if they're trying to just be like a super race deck. All right, so we're just gonna assume they have nothing because they have one Fires of Rebellion in hand that they returned with Memory Spirit, so they just have this top deck. And our champion is untargetable, so they can't use the deal 2 damage to shoot it. But they might have, like, the worst thing they could have is like deal 2 damage to all champions and players, or I mean that wouldn't even be maybe Fireball to deal 3 damage to us and all of our champions. Yeah, that's fine. You're gonna draw a card and deal 2 damage to a target. They might even try and kill one of these. Oh, they're just gonna shoot us. All right. So it looks like they're just really trying to race this out, which is fine with me. So we're going to surprise attack, play Draka. We're not going to show loyalty because it just gives us blitz, and we already have, it's going to be able to attack on our turn anyway. So there's no reason for us to show loyalty. Our turn is going to start. We have double Flame Strike here, so we're pretty much going to win. I'm going to attack with Draka, and we know the opponent has Fires of Rebellion, but they're playing Burn, so they're actually pretty unlikely to have an answer. So I'm just going to immediately Feeding Frenzy this so that they don't have a blocker for this 9/9. Another option, which would have been way more aggressive, would have been to play the Draka and also swing with both of them together, so that way it just kills the opponent's Blue Dragon. But I mean, they could have Wave of Transformation or something in the deck where they clear everything and then top deck a heal, and then that wouldn't be great. So here, if they clear the board with their new card, then we play Draka and hit them for 9, and then Flame Strike them on our turn, and on their turn. So it's going to be very hard for them to get out of this one. I think this one's in the bag. They could, yeah, I don't see how. Oh, I accidentally clicked next game. Oh wait, did I do something weird? Oh, it's Master Ram. All right, I see. That next game button just appeared because our other opponent did their mulligan, which we can actually do in 1 second. All right, looks like they're conceding, so we got there. All right, sweet. Well, let's play another game. We have our constructed deck. And our opponent is here because they just mulliganed, so we're going to mulligan. It's our turn. Like I said, same thing. We're going to hold on to the Rage and the Juggernaut. Great. Alright, so this is a great hand. We're going to reveal both of these when we play our Juggernaut to draw a card. And then it's really hard for a deck to answer a Juggernaut on turn 1. Usually you don't want to play a champion with Blitz with your first gold, because what happens is you play an attack and your opponent answers it. Lots of people like to play Medusa, people like to play Drain Essence, and they also like to play wild cards that deal damage. But this one's unbreakable on our turn, so they can't just break it with anything. And also it has Breakthrough, which means they can't chump it with a very small champion. So it almost always, on an empty board, it's almost always just going to deal 9 damage to them, and then they're going to deal with it on their turn. So on all of your turns, this card can't be broken. So it's really good at efficiently dealing with champions like that. Not champions like that, but it's really good at just forcing your opponent into a bad spot. Like this is like a Flame Strike that we just get to keep hitting them with. Alright. It looks like they maybe didn't. We could rematch Master Ram. Let's see if Master Ram wants to play another game. If any of you want to challenge me, just do this. Oops. Just do that challenge. Anyway, I'm going to re-challenge Master Ram. See if Master Ram wants to play another game of Constructed with big boys. Alright, in the meantime, we can probably just see about playing in this, probably just going to play some more of this Dark Draft. Alright, so we drafted 3 cards so far. So we haven't really started this draft yet. I guess, yeah. So let's talk about picks for Dark Draft. So in general, when I draft a deck, my goal is to make kind of a rounded deck. Like, you don't want all of your cards to be burn, for example, because there are going to be times where you don't want to play a burn card. The same thing goes for just deck construction in general. You're trying to build something that is versatile, so unlike in other games where you're just trying to do A, then B, then C, that are all basically the same thing, but just stronger versions of each other, you only have 1 gold to spend each turn. So if you have 3 gold cost cards in your hand, it's best if each of those gold cost cards do a different thing. So in general, in deck construction in Epic, you actually want your gold cost cards to be varied in their effects. Alright, so it looks like they're just going to start the game off. Oh, okay, they did have an answer. But see, this is fine. We spent our gold playing this card and drawing a card off of it. So we drew a card, and they spent their gold giving us a wolf token instead of that card. So basically, we drew one, and then they gave us a wolf token. So all in all, it's actually a pretty good trade for us. Now, I, in general, will not play my zero-cost champions until they provide some kind of value. So, I mean, maybe they just draw a card and they blue dragon or wolf token or something like that, but it's really nice for us to be able to play this next Juggernaut and reveal Loyalty 2 for both of these without having to draw another Sage card in our next 3. Because we're 100% going to have to Rage and draw 2 here. Alright, well, Smith Tech is... Alright, they're starting their turn. Let's see what they've got. Nice. Alright, they're going to draw some cards. So I think we're probably playing against some kind of control deck. They have Wave of Transformation and they have Ancient Chant. Ancient Chant is the kind of like the most cards you can draw for a card. You draw 2, and then you also draw a card when it leaves your discard pile. So even if you recycle it, then you get to draw a 3rd card off of it eventually. So for that reason, decks that try to answer threats by playing cards generally try to run Ancient Chant. And even if it's also good in decks that lack a lot of card draw. Like if you're just playing this deck, I could play Ancient Chant instead of, say, Juggernaut, for example, because if I have Ancient Chant in my hand and I play it, and then later I don't have a way to draw cards on a board that's really full, then I can just I can recall the Ancient Chant instead of making a play. And recalling it will also draw you an extra card. So it's a really good option if you feel like in games you run out of cards in your hand. If that seems to be a problem for you, then you should try out Ancient Chant. Why it's constructed 60 cards? I mean, I guess there is not an excellent reason why there's 60 as opposed to a different number. I mean, limited is 40. I think if you have a really small deck, then it's kind of too consistent in the sense that all of your games are the same. And you don't want it to be where you're running through your entire deck and then drawing the last card as the main win condition. Like, if that happens sometimes, that's fine, but in Constructed, it would not be very interesting for people to just draw their last card and then they instantly win most of the time. I think that's much more interesting as a threat. Like, you're playing a game and then suddenly they're getting low on cards, and then, all right, you better either get rid of them quick or banish their discard pile. All right. Well, I think the Smith Tech is possibly doing something else. You might just want to play a real-time game of Constructed if we are having our opponent not make any plays here. So, alright, looks like Master Ramp accepted our challenge. Alright, so it's the enemies going first. So, in our opening hand, Vanishing is the only play that we have on our turn. So I'm actually going to mulligan pretty much everything. I think I want to hold on to Juggernaut. We get the Vanishing, we're probably going to get a second Sage card. We do have a decent amount of on-turn plays, but really the only ones that we want are Raging T-Rex and Juggernaut are the only ones that we really want to play on an empty board. So I'm just gonna toss these 3 back, and then worst case we'll just draw 2. Right. Okay. So this is pretty nice. What we're going to probably end up doing is drawing 2 into Raging T-Rex. But if we end up if our opponent plays a threat, we could Wave Transformation, turn it into a Wolf token, and then Raging T-Rex to draw 2 if we draw a wild card, or Juggernaut to draw a card if we draw a Sage card. My deck is revolved around winning by drawing my deck. I think that you'll find some people will be playing Amnesias or Heinous Feasts in their deck, and then you will have a hard time drawing through your entire deck. Because if they banish your whole discard pile, then they're not going to, it's not going to work out for you. Alright, so they're revealing, so Drinker of Blood and Zealous Necromancer. So they're playing some kind of Drinker of Blood deck. Basically, the way this card works is whenever another champion is broken, you deal damage to the opponent and you gain health. So some decks try to kind of combo where they break everything, kind of, after playing this card. So we are going to draw 2 here. This is a decent Wave of Transformation, but I mean, if we draw Pyrosaur off the top right now, then we just clear them. Plus, we can Vanishing their Drinker of Blood and then play a real threat, and that's perfectly fine too. So, no need to Wave Transformation this. It's not threatening. Much rather, basically, I think having a full grip where you get to 7 cards in hand is like really helpful, because you start hitting your loyalties really consistently. I mean, if you're all one color, then you can worry about that less, but a big part of Epic is just general threat assessment, where you're thinking, okay, is this card something that I need to remove right away? Or can I hold off and draw some cards? A lot of cards in this game have the option of drawing 2. So because you can use them to draw 2, you need to actually determine if it's worth interacting with them or not. And so what's going to happen here is we are either going to, if we draw a Sage card, then we might just force Mage Apprentice to kill 5/4 and then Juggernaut. But if we draw a wild card, then we'll probably have to Vanishing and then Brachiosaurus, Raging T-Rex, and draw 2. I mean, we'll Brachiosaurus, Raging T-Rex, and draw 2, and then we'll play Vanishing if we don't draw another answer off the top. I have seen some really interesting decks with Drinker of Blood where they try to play Zombie Apocalypse, which I guess we haven't seen one yet, but it makes a zombie for each champion in each player. It breaks all champions, and then every player gets a zombie for each champion in the discard pile. So, like, if Master Ram played Zombie Apocalypse and then they get 2 zombies, then but later in the game maybe they get 20 zombies or something like that. Then they, on their turn, they drop this down and they actually just instantly murder all zombies to kill the opponent. But it's definitely kind of a late game strategy. You can't do it right away. Wasn't the promo supposed to be? Yeah, they'll be added. Unfortunately, they're not in the card pool right now. It'd be kind of weird for some people to have them and other people not have them. So, if as far as constructed goes, but they are being added. All right, I think Master Ram accepted my challenge. We're just gonna have to play a real. Oh. All right. Well, apparently this person took 2 from the wolf token here. So let's see. We could spend our gold first and play this Misguide Herald. Usually I like Misguide Herald on boards where we have a good hit for everything. We don't really want to play Draka or Pyrosaur right now, but Juggernaut is a pretty good hit. I think we're just going to play the Juggernaut now and get the loyalty out of the way and reveal our 2 cards that aren't the 0 cost card. Yeah, because if we had hit that Draka off the top, then it wouldn't have been very good. I mean, it wouldn't have been the worst thing, but Misguided Herald into Draka, then we attack for 9 with the Draka, and if they have anything that interacts with it, and they're playing that control deck, so they could have a Drain Essence. They could basically have anything. Yes, I guess they're Flame Striking. All right, they're Flame Striking us. Sounds great. Because they did 8 damage to us and we do 9 damage to them, but we keep our Juggernaut. So if they are actually playing a similar deck, if they're running Draka or Pyrosaur, they might be able to clear us. But we don't have we just have no way to deal with that right now. It's like we could Flame Spike and Recycle, but let's see, we could draw Surprise Attack or Flame Strike. Or Strafing Dragon. So if our opponent attacks us with Draka, we'll probably Flame Spike the Draka and then spend our gold based on what we draw. Alright, looks like our opponent. Oh wait, alright, we're good. Alright, let's pass. So, I mean, I could play Flame Spike here and just shoot them, so that way I get more information about my draw, but I don't have another card to recycle. So if they Draka attack, then the Juggernaut dying will give us a second card to recycle. Alright, so they're going to play Forked Lightning, probably shooting that in us. Alright, so they're also playing some kind of hyper-aggressive burn deck. So we're going to look for a card that does something, doesn't just draw 2. Alright, and there's one. So we're going to reveal... we're going to keep our Feeding Frenzy secret. Yeah. Because we have to reveal one of these Blitz champions anyway. Shoot them for 5, and then start a turn. So right now let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage in hand. If we play Force Mage Apprentice, then Pyromancer. Yeah, so if we hit with this, then we just win. Alright, this is looking good. We're going to attack for 6. So if this gets in, we just win. We just play Force Mage Apprentice, shoot them for 2, and then play Pyrosaur and reveal both of these and attack. So a big part of this game mode is when I attack with this, it's actually it's not usually good to spend your gold first if you can help it on your opponent's turn. Here, if they had an answer for this, they probably just have to play it because going down to 5 against a green deck is definitely pretty risky. If they have no answer though, then I mean they're dead anyway. So, like if they were at something like 30, right, and they don't play anything, then after hitting them with both of these, I would just pass. I wouldn't even spend my gold. All right, so I'm gonna Wave of Transformation. That's going to turn all of our champions into wolf tokens. That's fine. So we have this Punisher, which deals 9 damage to them when it hits them. So we should still have lethal here. If they don't have an answer for this, we hit them for 9, and then we also hit them for 2 with the Force Mage Apprentice. And that's why I think it's very important in Epic just to generally try and force your opponent to... You're pressuring them into spending their gold first. And you don't have to do that the same way as this wild deck does, where you just, beat their face in, and then hopefully they run really low on health, and then they die. But you can also use things like Thought Plucker, where you play ambush champions, and then the ambush champions are annoying to deal with, so they have to either get rid of them or just take the hits. Or you can just not really care about the fact that your opponent is going to try and make you spend your gold for it first, and play cards like looks like a Spike Trapping, and play cards like Juggernaut that for the most part, oh wow, they do have an answer. All right, I like it. I like what I see. All right, we're gonna pass. Looks like we got a game. We could still lose here for sure. If they played like a deal 7 or a deal 8 on us, then they just play another one on our turn when we attack, then we just lose. It's possible I should have Force Mage Apprentice to bring them to 9, and then on our turn we can do 2 damage twice. Yeah, probably not. Yep, the dome does for 6. Right, so we're dead to Flame Strike or Lessons Learned, which lets you play an event from your discard pile. Alright, so we have Fire Shaman plus Pyrosaur is 7 damage, plus Force Mage Apprentice is 9 damage. So we just need exactly Flame Strike, Flame Spike, or Fire Shaman, or Force Mage Apprentice off the top here. So that's like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Except that I guess we can also do it with Flame. Yeah, okay, I already said that one. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10. I guess we also can do it with Vanishing because we can vanish our own champion. So we have like a 13. We have about a 1 in 4 chance of getting a card that wins us the game off the top right here. I mean, I'm just assuming that they have some kind of lethal for us if we just attack them. Because what's really important about this game state is they can't do anything until we attack or end our turn. Oh, sorry, it's actually my priority and I forgot to pass. Yeah, they are. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right, Classic Smiley. That was all my fault. I guess actually, if we don't draw a green card, we can't Fire Shaman then Pyrosaur to attack. So we have to draw either 3, 4, 5. It's only 1 extra damage. We can't actually win with Fire Shaman. I was wrong because what would happen is we would Fire Shaman and then we can't play 2 Fire Shamans, Pyrosaur, and then attack with Pyrosaur. So we pretty much just need Flame Spike, Flame Strike, or Vanishing. So much suspense. It's building. Alright. Smith Tech. Alright, well. You can also see which cards you banished already. So I think we recycled those to Flame Spike and we were amnesiaed. Alright. I guess they're trying to... So in that case... So that Wither right there tells me they don't have lethal because otherwise they would not need to do anything. I guess maybe they're worried about us gaining health then buffing our champion. So we might have an out here. Like because we could do Force Mage Apprentice Misguide. We could do Force Mage Apprentice Misguide and then we deal 4 damage to Force Mage, which puts them at 7. So we would have to draw a champion that deals 7. And we don't have any of those. So we're just going to attack the 2. Yeah, there's actually currently a friends list. I'll show you. So what you do is, let's say that I really enjoy playing against Master Ram here. So I could add them. And then, you can challenge people from this list right here. Basically. But there's no in-game chat function, at least right now. I'm attacking them for 2. I think either they have lethal or we win. I guess they could have some kind of removal for both of our wolves and our Pyrosaur. But that doesn't seem likely if they're playing that kind of deck. I wonder if this is also... Oh, if they're playing Withers, they're playing some amount of evil cards. So maybe they're playing Drain Essences? Alright, well, we're going to see how Master Ram's doing. So Master Ram passed. Alright, so we drew that wild card that I was talking about. So probably we Brachiosaurus, Raging T-Rex to draw 2 and then vanishing that. We have the weird play of Fire Shaman, Brachiosaurus, plus another wild card to shoot that for 3 damage twice. But it's a little awkward because basically it just we don't get to draw 2 off of Raging T-Rex because we only have 1 green card in our hand. So I'm perfectly fine with vanishing it because if we draw a Pyrosaur by the time that thing comes back down again, it won't do anything to us. And it's kind of a really slow play anyway because they have to play it and then they have to break something in the same turn if they want to get the effect. So it's really weak to bounce effects like this. So we are going to go ahead and play this Brachiosaurus and then it's Raging T-Rex and reveal OG green cards and draw 2 cards. Now, in theory, this should actually be a tell that we don't have another green card in our hand because otherwise we probably would have played Fire Shaman. Oh, I just passed. Oh well, that was a mistake. Otherwise, probably what we would have done is I probably should. I meant to also play Vanishing here, but I was just talking and I wasn't thinking. Then we probably would have played the Fire Shaman first, and then both of these. All right. Well, cool. We can finish this game up. I'm gonna take 2, and they're gonna take 2 again, I assume. And then let's see. After that, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I guess we had lethal, but so what we can do is Force Mage, shoot them. That's 2 Fire Shaman. Well, we can't Fire Shaman and Pyrosaur and attack, so that's Fire Shaman. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have exactly 7. Do this. Deal 3 damage. Deal 3 damage to each opposing champion or player. And that's game. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we should start a new game. I'm gonna queue up in. Let's do real time. Let's do real time. I mean, I guess what we could do is we could make another constructed deck, and I could talk about other constructed strategies. All right. Because we have that dark draft as well. Let's finish this draft. Hopefully, this person may have moved on because we took a while playing constructed. All right. So we have a Muse, a Priestess Evangeline, and a Shadow Imp. So I think what I'm going to do here is just take a. I really like how Bitten can remove things. I think Little Devil is pretty good, especially when you don't have a lot of 0-cost cards because it forces your opponent to react with it. But I don't want us to have too many zeros without any 1-cost cards, and I think Bitten is actually pretty nice as far as giving you a zombie token. Rain of Fire is also pretty reasonable. It deals damage to 3 targets, so you can kill 2 small things and then also shoot them, is usually how you try and use that card. Actually, yeah, I think we'll take the Rain of Fire. They're pretty close. I mean, Bitten, you have to play on your turn, so it's a little weaker in a sense that you can't play it on your opponent's turn and get advantage, but it's just completely unconditional. So we're going to take the 0-cost card here, which is pretty reasonable, just pretty much always. And then we're going to take probably this Ambush Champion so that we have an off-turn champion to play. We could take this Den Mother H3 Wolves, so it's annoying to remove, but it still kind of demands some kind of board clear. Entangling of Vines is okay. I actually find that it's pretty nice if you play the tempo game where you're expanding their champion and then you're attacking them with lots of things, and then you have some kind of punishers. We don't really know what our deck's going to look like right now, so I like getting an Ambush Champion because I often find that I tend to draft a low amount of Ambush Champions. All right. So let's just see what we got here. All right. We're going to start a new game. All right. Let's play I mean, we can also, I can show you what random 30 looks like. I'm not sure if there will be anybody playing random 30 right now, but in the meantime, what we can do is I can build another deck here. So let's just make another deck. And I'll talk about other things that I like doing. All right, let's go back here. I'm gonna just use this deck slot. All right, so what I want to do is focus on a different strategy. Let's try all right, let's talk about Final Task. So I really like Final Task. It brings a champion back from a discard pile into play, and then it gains Blitz, so it can attack right away. This card is really great because it lets you reuse a champion in your discard pile, but more importantly, you can attack with it right away. So the fact that it dies at the end of a turn is actually not always relevant. I guess, like, let's say we were talking about the Gudgeon, right? Your opponent attacks you with a big champion, and then you Final Task the Gudgeon out, and then you can block a champion with the Gudgeon. And then, it would have been broken at the end of a turn anyway. Or you can use it on your turn, you can use it on a Juggernaut, and then it's unbreakable on your turn, so it doesn't get broken at the end of the turn. So those are just some examples of how Final Task, the drawback isn't actually as bad as it looks. And the fact that it gets Blitz can be really powerful if you can abuse it. So we're going to try and make a deck with Final Task here. And then we're also going to play Drain Essence. So it seems like there's a lot of people playing wild decks right now that just deal damage directly. So we're going to play this because it heals us and it kills a champion. So it's really good against those green decks that just try and kill you really fast. And you can usually find a target for it against even the decks that like to take their time some more. And we're going to play Necromancer Lord. It reanimates a champion from a discard pile. And we can even do that thing I was talking about before where you just pick a color and you look at the loyalty cards. Alright, so we have Angel of Death, removes all champions in play, and you also get this champion. So if you have two other evil cards in your hand, it kills everything else, but you also get to keep the Angel. So in general, if I have a lot of evil cards, then I like to have an Angel of Death as a board clear, and then it sticks around, so it gives you a lot of advantage. And then Medusa is another classic card for evil, where it removes a champion, and then you get something that sticks around, but on their turn. So against a lot of decks, it means you'll be spending your gold first, because they'll attack you with something and you'll Medusa it, but it just is that kind of card that gives you advantage, and then they have to deal with it. Now from here, this would be what I would say is like, Final Task isn't really, but this would be what I would say is the kind of thing that I like to start with when I make a deck, is I pick a couple cards that I think are really strong in general, or I pick something to build around. So if I have Final Task, it looks like we have an opponent. If I have Final Task, then I might try and also play cards like Crystal Golem, or cards with really powerful tribute effects like the Gudgeon and Misguide Herald, so that I can get that really powerful tribute again. So like I can play this card, for example, because the tribute I can do that on my opponent's turn with Final Task. All right, we're gonna come back to this. We're just gonna call this deck Deck in Progress, because we have a random 30. I wanted to talk about random 30 a little bit because I haven't shown that format yet. All right, so random 30 is basically you get a random pool of cards, and then you play against someone else that has the same pool, or a different pool rather, of 30 cards. So the reason that random 30 is good is if you haven't really played and you just want to try it out without really knowing what you're doing, then random 30 and the beginner mode, which is like random 30 but for one color, will get you started on just, here's a bunch of cards. Don't worry about which cards are good, which cards are bad. Just play these. So enemy turn, they're going first. We're going to toss away some cards that are slow. And we're going to try and find a good off-turn play. In random 30, you want to play cards that are just better for the current turn, instead of trying to maintain a specific strategy because you don't even know what's in your deck. So we're going to play, we're probably just going to keep these two. I mean, Final Task, honestly, we don't even need that because we don't have any champions to discard piles right now. And even though you lose a lot of health here, in general, I tend to mulligan pretty aggressively because the way I see it, 1 health is very insignificant compared to a good hand, which is what we're looking for. And we actually have a great hand here. We have this White Knight, which, if you reveal 2 other white cards when you play it, it gains Blitz, and you draw a card right away. So it's a lot like Succubus in that it's like the good version of it. Alright, so they're going to play that. Unfortunately, we don't have an answer. We're going to play this thought. Normally, I wouldn't spend my gold until after my opponent has attacked. But this draws us a card, so we might draw a card that lets us interact with that. So I'm going to play this Thought Plucker and draw a card. And they discard a card. And then if we happen to draw there's a card that's called Hasty Retreat, which would return that to the hand, for example, then we would just play it right here. But since what's going to happen is they're going to hit us for 6 and then they're just going to pass anyway, might as well play this Thought Plucker now. Alright, so we're going to take the damage. That's why I Battle Passed, so that we don't do blocks. Basically, it just skips right past that. This gives all of their white champions or yellow champions have Righteous, so they deal damage and they gain that much health. So we're going to start our turn. And this Thought Plucker makes them discard a card when it deals damage to them as well. So they're probably going to do something to get rid of this right away. They might not. If they don't, then what happens is they'll discard a card and then we'll Vanishing that to their hand and then pass. If they do spend their gold, then if they do pretty much at all, then we'll just play White Knight and give it Blitz and then attack them if their gold's down and pass if it's not. We're not really racing them very well right now because health-wise, because they can keep gaining health with this, so we need a way to remove it first. All right, they're probably going to draw 2 with that. Oh, all right, they really wanted to get rid of our Thought Plucker, so they just broke. Basically, this card lets you break one of your champions to break 2 of your opponents. So they still have priority. They could play a 0-cost card here, or they could just end their turn. Alright, looks like they just passed. So what I'm going to do is play this card. Oh, do we have 2 cards on a discard pile? We just have 1. So we can't recycle. I'm going to play this card, draw a card, and then reveal both of these to give it Blitz, and then attack for 9. And they would have to have a 0-cost champion here, or pretty much that 1 card I was talking about. Hasty Retreat, and otherwise they're just going to take the 9 and then we're going to keep that on the board. I'm saving these recycles. If I didn't have if I had the ability to play them, I would at least play this Ochre Mercenary because there's a lot of ways for them to remove this and gain some advantage. Like they could play that card Bitten that I was just talking about that breaks a champion, and then if it's your turn, you get a zombie token. That card would be really good right now because the opponent would have a zombie token. Alright, they're going to Demon Breach, which gives them 3 demons, and they can get that card back by spending a gold later. So, we are just going to... we're actually going to expend 1 of them with this. I want to be pretty aggressive here, just because it's a good way to get use out of this card. What's going to happen is our turn is going to start, and then we're going to use White Knight to break an evil champion to kill 1 of their demon tokens. And then now this Entangling Alliance is going to come in and hopefully maybe kill that demon token. If it kills that demon token, then we're just if it kills that demon token or they don't block, then we're just, and they don't spend their gold, then I'm just going to pass the turn to them. I mean, I guess they only have 2 cards in hand, so playing Knight of Shadows to make them discard a card is a pretty good play here as well. Alright, they're going to play Angel of Light and gain 5 health. Sure. Now, if they block with both, then we can Vanishing their demon token to just blow them out. Alright, we're going to do that. Okay, and then this kills their Angel of Light, and then we're going to play the Knight of Shadows to eat their last card out of their hand. Now, I don't really want to play this Recycle card because it would just be so much to add onto the board right now. I mean, they're very unlikely to actually get a board wipe, so we could probably put a little bit of pressure on them with it. Change my mind. All right. So we're in a really good spot. I mean, I was just thinking, if they do have a card which clears the board here, then they won't have a card in their hand. So that is a pretty good outcome anyway. And then we can Resurrection to revive a card from our discard pile back to play that died this turn and just get back any of these things that were killed that turn. Alright, so they just drew 2, so we are also going to draw 2. This Force Field, because I don't think we're going to be making our opponent's champion small anytime soon. In general, I usually will make the attack that forces our opponent to act the soonest. So this one's unblockable. So alright, so I am going to actually trade here, and the reason is my opponent has something like a board clear in their hand. Then I don't want them to play it. I don't want them to hit me. I might as well just give that up and trade with it right now. Alright, so we're going to attack with the unblockable champion in case they have a 0 cost. I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, there is a card called Turn, which they could use to take one of our champions and then block. So in that case, it makes sense to attack with the, or Helion. It makes sense to attack with this card first. It would be pretty hard for them to Helion here. Alright, so we're going to attack with this. I'm leaving the White Knight to attack last in case they play an evil ambush champion to try and block. We can break it with the White Knight. Very corner case, but that's why. Alright. So, I mean, if they block with... I mean, we just remove one. No reason not to. I mean, we don't really have a good Punisher here, but that's fine. It's probably just going to be gain some health. Play that, recycle, and then draw 2 cards with Forced Exile, and gain 3 health off that. And then we're going to end the turn. And because we have more than 7 cards in our hand, we discard down to 7, and that's going to be the Rax's Displeasure, since we are probably going to get more value out of the Zombie Apocalypse than our opponent. They have 3 champions in their discard pile. We have 4 in play. So if we Zombie Apocalypse right now, we'd get more benefit there. All right. So let's see. We're gonna play this Zealous Necromancer, which whenever another non-zombie dies, then we get a zombie token, which is going to be really great. In theory, it actually wouldn't have been that bad to flash fire here and just make a bunch of zombies, but again, I mean, this game's probably over just because we have 8 cards in hand, they have 1 card in hand, and we're ahead on board and we're ahead on health, so it'd be really hard for the opponent to come back from here. Alright, so from here, what we're going to do is attack for 1, and then post blocks, we're going to flash fire and then fireball. Because they're almost definitely going, we're going to flash fire rather, they're almost definitely going to block this. Probably not going to block it, which is fine. And then we'll flash fire and then remove those human tokens so that we can attack with something bigger. So this gets us an additional 1 damage in. And then we flash fire, because our champion's going to die here from the flash fire. It does 2 damage to everything. Alright, and then we could fireball that. I think that we just want to attack. Well, yeah. I mean, we have so many cards in hand. It's kind of debatable. I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable for us to do either one, but like we could attack with the fireball. We could just attack and make the fireball in our hand and plan on fireballing them. But I mean, They would have to have an off-turn Wrath right there. Might as well just go for the win here. This makes it really hard for our opponent to not, for us not to immediately win. All right, and then that's the game. All right. Alright, so I think I'm going to wrap up the stream here, but if you have any questions, then I'll take them before heading off. Is there any place that has an active group who want to start testing for Origins? There's some people in the Boston area. I know that at the very least, world champion is the one from last, the first two worlds, John Tadian, should be around. Wisconsin might be, trying to think. Well, we have a Discord, so you should check in the Discord. And we also have a Facebook page. So there's the Epic Facebook page, and I think that you'll actually probably find more people looking for groups in the fan page, the Epic Facebook fan page. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. I'll hang around in case anyone else has a couple of questions for a bit, but I'm just going to be around for a few minutes and then I'm going to head off.